And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, out here out west. Good afternoon out east. Jason Bryan here with you at USA Wrestling. Going to talk to Zeke Jones, U.S. Freestyle National Team Coach. And for the last week, we've asked you for your questions for Coach Jones after the recent third-place finish by the men's freestyle team. And we've got some questions. We've got the chat room open, so feel free to chime in anytime, and we'll get right to it, Coach Jones. There you are, right? Nice trophy in the background there, we might add. So we've got a couple questions, and of course the chat room's open. But first off, let's just jump right into some of the questions. I know fans from around the country have a lot of them. And first one we'll go with a series of questions from Tom Maloney from out in Illinois. And he took the opportunity to have several questions here, and I think they're all relevant, and they're a chance for you to answer these things. First, as the head coach of the national freestyle team, you have a system in place you'll be introducing akin to what we might see in Eastern Europe, for example.
Well, hi, Tom, and thanks for the question. What we're doing is, we've been critical of the entire American wrestling system, particularly our freestyle system, and with the basis of, if you do the same thing, you get the same result. So right now what we're doing is we're looking at what we need to do differently in our program to make it successful. And when you talk about the European system, really what it is the United States uses what I call a competition-based model, which is when you start wrestling, as long as you keep winning, you go up levels, junior high, high school, college, Olympic level. As long as you keep winning, you progress. What we find in Cuba, Iran, Russia is more of a talent identification system where you identify the talent. You first work on the athletic ability of that person, of that wrestler, of a kid. Then you say, all right, based on building his gross motor movement, agility, plyometrics, flexibility. Then you say, okay, you're a swimmer, you're a golfer, you're a wrestler, you're a gymnast. And then what you do is you start to take that talent and you get your group of wrestlers and you start to teach them wrestling. Once you've taught them wrestling, then you start to compete them. That usually happens anywhere from 9 to 14 years old. And then what they do in Cuba is they'll move their kids together at 11 to 12 years old. Russia moves their kids together primarily at 14 years old. And we move our kids together at 18 years old. You get a college scholarship, you go wrestle for Iowa, Oklahoma State, Nebraska, Penn State, and then that's when we move our best kids together. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to identify that talent earlier, start moving it to the Olympic Training Center and identify the 15, 20 best kids in America when they're 10 and 12, 14 years old, with the goal of moving them together at about 15, 16 years old, with really the model kind of being that Henry Cejudo model where Henry moved here when he was, I think, 16 and was able to medal later. So that's kind of the long-winded answer, Tom, to that question. But that's one of the things that we're doing differently now in the program, and it's really a 5-year deal. We won't see the progression nor the results of that model until 2016 in Rio.
This one also, again, Tom provided us a bunch of stuff here, and I think it's all relevant from a wrestling fan perspective. How closely do you work with the heads of the regional training centers and wrestling clubs to make sure their athletes are working towards the goals of the national coaching staff?
Daily. What we do is they're the lifeblood of the national team program, and it's a win-win situation. We try to make sure they have all the resources and materials they need to be successful within their regional training center, knowing that those guys will eventually funnel to the national team and up onto the top of the podium. Again, just looking at other models, and again, I'm not saying we're following everyone else's model, but just understand when you're in Vladikavkaz, Russia, and they've probably produced 40 world and Olympic champions over the last 50 years in a small town of, 300,000-400,000 people, or maybe it's more, I don't know how big it is, but it's not a very big city. And you go to practice in one location, then you drive 40 miles over to another wrestling club, they're running virtually the same practice. Now, we could go from one regional training site to, not regional training site, but from one university to another, from one high school to another, and you're running a totally different practice plan. So what we found is we needed to be doing some of the same basic skills in all our regional training centers. One, because it's the American areas of concentration, and two, when they come to the national team practice, it's a seamless transition from the regional practice to the national practice. So we have what's called a daily freestyle practice plan, and we ask all our regional training centers to run it a couple times a week. We know they're practicing 10 times a week, but we need them to run that practice, 2, 3, 4 times a week. And really those ones that are running that daily freestyle practice are just really getting great results internationally. So we've got a very honed and concentrated plan, daily practice plan, and our regional training sites and our national program work on that plan together, as well as we work on a variety of other areas even off the mat, from scouting to training and competition schedules to a lot of different areas.
This question seems to come up quite frequently with, especially since you've come on as the head coach, and the question is the plan to have the nation's best wrestlers here in Colorado at the OTC, or develop more regional training centers so they can pursue their own options?
Yeah, I think we want to have, the answer is we want to have both strong, but here's really how it works. I think that in the past what we've done is try to move our best wrestlers in America to the training center, but we found that not everyone wants to live at the Olympic Training Center. There's a certain type of athlete, just like anywhere, you have certain affinities to geographic location, to where your family lives, to where you can achieve your goal, to who your workout partner is. So that model was tried, but it didn't work. So what I did is I did the opposite. We want to strengthen all the regional training centers. We wanted to grow those programs out within the regional training sites and strengthen them first. And really not first, but at the same time. So what we did was we wanted to say, okay, athletes don't want to move to the training center. We want to strengthen where they're at and where they want to stay at. So we've made that effort to strengthen as many regional training centers as wants to be out there and fund their program and compete at the highest level and give them all the resources. Now, at the same time, we want the Olympic Training Center to be good. We almost want it to be like a regional training site where, there's a good team at the training center, there's a good team at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, one at the Ohio RTC, Cowboy Club, all the different ones that we have around the country. My thinking is, why have one good Olympic Training Center when you can have 5?
Well, in regards to that, we have our detractors in the social media world and the message boards and whatnot. And with that being said, what are some of the biggest misconceptions on the boards regarding your role and what takes place at the Olympic Training Center?
Well, I don't particularly go on there too often. Every once in a while I will, but I like anything, it's a great place for people to conversate. You'll get all different types of conversations. I don't know if I can tell you what that answer is, what the misconceptions are, and hopefully this is why we're doing a little bit of this today, for people not to guess and speculate, to know exactly what the American program's trying to do, what our goal is, and to achieve our wrestlers' goals, but also to make you guys proud, to make sure that the United States of America is proud of our program, that everyone's working tirelessly and pouring tons of effort into our success. And so, we want to do that, and we want to make sure you guys are aware that we're doing everything possible that we can absolutely do.
This goes into the rules, and I guess being in a position of fine ability if this were to get out too far. Delicately state your position on FILA's rule changes that have taken place since you first began competing. Not since 2005, but since when you were competing.
Yeah, well, a couple things. One is
delicately, we might add.
Oh no, sure. I'll be honest and forthright. One is that the rules haven't changed in 6 years. That's kind of a common misconception that freestyle changes its rules every year. It hasn't changed the rules every year in the last 6 years. Now, interpretation, sure. Your whole foot steps on the line. Now it's the whole foot's got to be out of bounds. Sure, there's been some little details. But essentially, rules haven't changed in the last 6 years. Now, going back to you saying when I wrestled, yeah, they're significantly different. And again, this is a little bit of the talk out of both sides of your mouth. One is that there are different nuances. The clinch is different. The pressures are different. When you're talking about folk style, you want to pull people in bounds. Freestyle, you want to shove them out of bounds. Those pressures are different for our guys to feel. I mean, it's significantly different. But the other side of my mouth is, hey, freestyle and folk style, wrestling is wrestling. Single leg is single leg. Double leg is double leg. Wrestling is wrestling. Jordan Burroughs proved to you that you can do it. You can go from folk style to freestyle and win a gold medal right away. But make no mistake, Jordan Burroughs put time and effort into making the transfer quick. Can he get better at it? Sure, he can get better at it. But is he consciously focused on making the quick transferable adjustments from folk style to freestyle? He is. Do I like the folk style rules? I love the folk style rules. Do I love the freestyle rules? I love the freestyle rules. I'm an American just like you guys. But I recognize what my job is, and that's to help America win gold medals. And so, obviously, we're going to work towards making our freestyle team the best we can.
Speaking on that, would you like to see the American folk style or collegiate style amend some of its rules to be a little more friendly to the international styles?
Yes, for sure. I'd love to see folk style and freestyle come together. So as you can imagine, in my position, what I try to do... But
still keeping the fundamentals of American folk style wrestling still kind of the core with the turns and the tilts and things of that nature?
Yeah, really it's that's not for me to decide. All I'm asking is for folk style to say, hey, look at moving closer to freestyle, and I'm going to freestyle saying, hey, look at moving closer to folk style. Because inherently both have things that are good about it. To me, what we do know is the closer the styles come together, the better chance we have of success in America. So to me, I don't care who moves slower or faster. We all know folk style tends to move through their rule changes slower, where freestyle, we know in the past, changes rules every year. So we probably can make more progress on the freestyle side because they're willing to adjust quicker, to make changes quicker. But to me, I don't care. As long as we can get closer together, it does help us. But we also know, doesn't matter. These are the rules today. This is what we've signed up for, and we need to have success in this climate, these conditions, so we will. Or at least we'll work hard at it.
Shifting gears a little bit to what goes on in this office from a coaching perspective, the USA Wrestling National Coaches Education Program serves as a way to certify coaches. As a national team coach, do you feel it can be improved upon to have more coaches become involved simply beyond requiring them to just have a card? I mean, what can we do as a program to fully develop freestyle and Greco-Roman coaches?
Yeah, coaching education is one of the most important things we do in USA Wrestling, but also just around the country in our little kids clubs and our junior highs and our high schools. That we have to ensure that the information is getting out to our coaches, and so we are, as you know, we're putting an online curriculum up on the website that has a lot of very bright wrestling minds that are working very diligently at making sure that all our coaches can go pop right on the internet and get level 1 curriculum, level 2 curriculum, level 3 curriculum, so that our coaches are getting good education, fast education, getting the information they need. Cody Bickley, Les Gutchis, Bill Zadek, Bobby Douglas, Brandon Slay, our developmental coaches around the country have been working on this curriculum, and I think it's going to be a huge factor in why America can make progress in the next 4 to 8 years.
Mark Bader of Flow Wrestling was out here a couple weeks ago at the training camp before we went to the World Championships, and he asked a lot of the athletes about sparring and play wrestling. We have a question from Mel Hughes out in Bolivar High School asking, what about the use of sparring or play wrestling and ways to get that concept across to our younger high school age athletes? He calls it 50-50, but always has trouble getting the kids to understand what's too much and what's too little resistance. How can we teach our kids to get the most out of that?
Yeah, sure. One thing we've implemented in the wrestling program here, we were doing it in my collegiate programs that I was in, and when we came to the national team, we've implemented sparring, and I've been using that language, and it seems to have caught on that sparring is something that we want to do in our practice, and we're actually doing a lot more sparring and a lot less drilling. And I highly recommend it to all our coaches and our wrestlers out there to do more sparring and drilling. What is sparring? There's a lot of different ways you can describe it. We call it play wrestling. Why do we call it play wrestling? It's like grabbing your brother in the living room, and you're rolling around the living room, and you're laughing, and you're having a great time, and he gets on top, and you get on top, and you're kind of letting each other score, but you're also scoring at the same time. Another way to describe it is you have drilling and you have live wrestling. In the middle of drilling and live wrestling is a thing called sparring. And really what you want to do is you want to try to create as many wrestling positions as you can. You don't want to choke off a guy's hold or position. So you attack me, then I re-attack you, but you don't stop me, but you also give me enough feel to move to the next hold. And we go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holds deep before finally someone finishes. It's not also always offense. When we do national team sparring, we seem to think it's always offense, but also the counter offender should win. Should make sure the counter offender wins in sparring. There's a lot of ways to describe it. I think you got to let them get into position, but don't stop the hold. Let holds progress. Let positions occur. and you got to work together. I think another way you can describe it is it's non-competitive live wrestling. So you're going to feel like it's going live, but don't compete with each other. Don't try to beat your partner. Let him score. Let him do things. So those are several different ways that you can describe sparring. It is something that is difficult to master, even at our very highest levels, senior levels, because whether they just want to drill or they want to be competitive and not let a guy do something to them, but you got to spar. It's critical. It creates the feel. Drilling is repetition, and it's a systematic way to learn to do something. But sparring creates feel. So I'll use certain language with the team, get into position and feel the next move, feel the next execution, feel what you're trying to do. And I think when they try to do that in concept, we tend to get what we're looking for.
Question is regards to technique. A couple of them have come up. This one from Robert Gillespie asking, did Jordan Burroughs seem to switch from his favorite double leg to a single leg as his main offense through the Worlds? Was this done purposely or worked on in practice ahead of time? Obviously, Jordan has said in other interviews that he's always had a single, but what was your coaching aspect coming into that?
Well, it's like anything. It's media and perception. When there's a T-shirt that comes out, it's called doubles. Well, and we know he's got a good double leg, but everybody thinks it's a double leg. But you watch Jordan Burroughs train, he doesn't just got a double. He's got a single, he's got a low single, he's got an ankle pick, he's got a misdirection high crotch, he's got to take down the turn. Jordan Burroughs got a lot of things. You don't win a world title primarily with one move. You win it with several moves and finishes and setups that work together. I think I just think the opponents gave him certain feels, and the certain feels they gave him led him to execute different attacks. And don't think that Jordan Burroughs could just do one thing. He can do a lot of different things.
Technical question from Sonny Close out in Christiansburg, Virginia. He asked, do you orient your athletes towards cross ankle, knee finishes? If not, is it because you don't believe in them strongly, or is it because you're looking for the athlete's natural preference?
Well, I'll tell you. Well, yeah, it's that for sure. I'll tell you one thing is I do a real detailed breakdown of the World Championships each year, and we've posted it online on 2009 and 2010, the statistical analysis of those in the semifinals, gold medal and bronze medal matches. So you're really talking about the 5 top wrestlers in the world. And I break that down statistically. What setups do they use? What attacks do they use? What finishes do they use? And what do they do in parterre top? And I can tell you that the world's trend is that gut wrenches, there are more gut wrenches than ankle aces on about a 2-to-1 ratio, give or take, on the year. Now this year I'm in the process of breaking that film down now, and I'll send that out to all you guys so you can study the analysis. But gut wrenches happen more than ankle aces, so it's like anything. If 60% of all turns are gut wrenches, we spend approximately 60% of our time in gut wrenches, and 40% in ankle aces. So we put time into both, but probably a little bit more time into gut wrench. But naturally, guys like ankle ace, more. So obviously Jordan Burroughs has a great double leg, and he tackles shoes well, and he has a nice single leg. All of those lead to ankle ace. So you're going to find a guy like Jordan Burroughs who's going to naturally, go into the ankle ace position from his attack.
As you alluded to the video, a couple questions here. One from Tom Frank at Intermat, and we're going to package this with the question from Patrick Kelly at Seaman High School in Topeka. How has video scouting evolved over the past few years with the rise of a lot of matches being on YouTube and Flow Wrestling? And how have video scouting done beforehand versus the same event type of things? Is there any difference in video scouting for freestyle than there is folk style?
No, I think we go through the same process. We identify who we're going to be competing against in the World Championships, and we do complete analysis on all the guys at the World Championships. We break their film down, and then we work on, strategic plan for each one of those opponents. Same thing with ourselves. After we go compete in the tournament, we do an exhaustive analysis on each guy on the team and break his video down. So no, you go through the same process. What is that process? How I do it is probably different than other people, but I'll have the video on one side of my computer, and then the other side of the computer I have a Microsoft Word document, and as I'm watching the video, I'm typing notes on each of those guys per period by opponent. So watching Jordan Burroughs' matches in Ukraine, I did each one of his opponents, broken down on what Jordan did well, what areas of concentration he has, and then I send that to Jordan for review. When he comes into camp, then we go through those specific areas of concentration, as well as when we break down the opponents he's going to need to beat. Of course, we all knew the Russian was going to grab the singlet, so we had everybody grabbing his singlet during practice, or his T-shirt during practice, his shorts, his socks, his shoelaces. It didn't matter. We grabbed everything on his body we could, on his clothing, to get him ready for that. So, I think that's how we scout through our opponents. That's kind of the quick version of it. It's an exhaustive project. I mean, I probably watch on the average of 3 hours of video a day, getting ready for the World Championships, Olympic Games. It's probably more. And, we have very detailed daily training plans for each guy on the team in the areas that they need to work on.
Do you feel that was pivotal in Burrow's success at the World Championships and Jake Varner getting that bronze medal and the 5th place qualifying the weight classes? I mean, does the video review and all your breakdowns, do you feel that was directly involved in the success?
Oh, absolutely. When we were in Medved for a week and a half, we were there training, but we trained in Medved, in Minsk. We were in Minsk for a week and a half before we went on to Istanbul. And we were in the dorms, and there was a common lounge, so there were dorm rooms and a common lounge. And every night, almost every night or afternoon, I would take my computer out into the lounge, and the guys all needed to come out in the lounge to get internet anyways. It was perfect, so they would naturally come out with their computers and phones to communicate with back home. And I would pull video up, and every one of the guys would sit down in the chair and review their opponents in the upcoming World Championships the next week. And then when we got the draw, once we knew the draw each evening, then they would cycle down to my room. We had Cale come down, Jake came down. We'd watch those opponents each round coming up, who we would speculate. Of course, you concentrate on the first bout, but you also recognize you want to be ready for every bout after that. We watched film that night before or in the morning before the day's wrestling, just to review through game plan, strategy, tactic, techniques, and then to prepare for those bouts.
Question from the always interesting Chael Sonnen. He asks, do we have any indication that FILA is going to impose any new rules prior to the Olympic Games? If so, what are they? And if not, what would you like to see change that we as fans can do to help stimulate a change process?
Chael, what's up, man? Good to hear from you. Thanks for the question, man. Keep kicking butt. Do I think there's going to be any rule changes? I don't. Maybe some clarifications or some modifications, maybe. But I do think one thing FILA has tried to do, like I said, in the last 6 years, is to not really make any rule changes. I think they've taken a beating, just from the worldwide community now. I see about changing the rules so often. I think they like their product in most ways now, so I don't think we'll see anything. Could we see like an interpretation of the clinch a little bit differently? Sure.
Well, would you like to see that? Because it seems like the rule book says head inside, and we see so many head outside clinches. A lot of false start clinches in Turkey.
And they're very comfortable with the false start clinch. I mean, make no mistake, we've had that conversation before. They want that clinch to be unfair. And why? Because they don't want a 0-0 period. Wrestling is wrestling, and it has inherently its problems. And it's folk style, freestyle, it doesn't matter. You have 0-0 periods, which folk style and freestyle doesn't like, and you also have stalling or the edge of the mat. Folk style has the issue, and freestyle has the issue. FILA has went out and made bold decisions on 0-0s and edge of the mat. Folk style has moved a little slower, and that's okay. We tend to move a little slower when we're making our rule changes, and that's fine. But inherently, both sports or both styles have addressed those issues. Now, folk style or freestyle, FILA has already made they've already said, we're going to make that clinch so unfair that if you chose to go 0-0, you're going to reap the wrath of the clinch. The clinch in itself is terrible, but the intent of the clinch is great. And it's that intent that if you go 0-0, you're going to have a penalty if you lose the ball pull. So, do I think they'll change it? The only way they'll change the clinch is to make it even more unfair. I mean, they basically let you do a rolling start, jump before the whistle, and we practice jump before the whistle because we know that's how it's going to be. So, if anything, it'll just get more unfair. So you got to practice all the different ways to cheat the whistle.
Well, you practice all that, but when you go 0 for 6, you really don't have that opportunity like Tervel did. Let's talk a little bit about upcoming events. The next event for the United States, the Pan Am Games, which happens every 4 years, the year before the Olympic year. All the Pan American countries. It's not an inclusive event where everybody's in. It's very selective. We're only 8 countries are represented per weight class. We don't have a 60 kilo entry this year. But as far as the importance of the Pan Am Games and gearing towards London, what's the role for the U.S. freestyle team in the Pan Am Games?
Well, we put an X on the Pan Am Games. So we put a mark on that tournament. We want to go down there. Of course, we're bringing most everyone from our World Championship team, and because we want to make a statement. Dan Gable said it best. You want to follow up the World Championships with another good tournament right away to let everyone know, including yourself, that that you're here. You're here to be the best team in the world, and I think he's right. That's why we put that on the schedule. I think that thinking is right. 2, we're doing it because the Pan Am Games is like the Olympics in that you have multi-sports, swimming, basketball, all the sports will be there. You go through team processing, you get all the gear, you get all the feelings of going to the Olympic Games because it's a multi-sport event. And we've had a lot of history and tradition of great wrestlers from America that have won the Pan Am Games. And I just know these guys that are going on our team, they want to make that same mark. They want to be that guy too.
With the Olympic trials coming up in April this year, it kind of crunches the schedule a little bit. And, of course, that came into play with the different sites for the Olympic trials and which cities were bid and which ones were eliminated. Ultimately, they end up in Iowa City in late April, the 21st, 22nd. That adjusts the schedule entirely. There's the U.S. Open, as we know it, for 2012 doesn't truly exist. It's kind of for the freestyle side, you guys are going to be involved in one of the biggest college wrestling tournaments with the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational, running side by side with it. What's the name of that? Explain what it does for the Olympic trials, and is it basically the U.S. Open?
Sure. Well, we'll kind of go backwards from the first thing you said. One, it's Iowa City. That's going to be a great place to have Olympic trials. Tom Brands, Terry Brands, Gable doing a super job putting that event together, and it'll be great to have it there. It'll be good for our guys to get in an arena, 10,000 people going crazy, and so I'm looking forward to our guys getting into the pressure cooker of that environment and getting ready to make the Olympic team. It is a shortened season. The 3 years before the Olympics, 9, 10, and 11, you have a similar format. In 2012, it's like FILA blew up the calendar and said, we're going to do something totally different in the Olympic year. So you're going to look at a very different calendar. We don't make the calendar, they make the calendar. So we have to follow it. But we are going to be strategic in how we wrestle that calendar. I think like we did this year. I think we did mostly things the same, but we made some adjustments in the calendar. I think it helped us. Same thing this year. We're going to be real strategic on how we compete and train and compete in the calendar. What we've decided was we don't have a U.S. Open, but why is it's a 10-month calendar instead of a 12-month, so we're 2 months less. And also
it's not also FILA, it's also the IOC, the Olympic Games. Typically, wrestling's competed in mid to late September. Here, it's in early August.
That's right, with the opening ceremonies being July 29th. So, yeah, it's a significantly early calendar.
A couple days after Fargo, so
that's right.
We're all crushed.
And it really boiled down to, I love the U.S. Open. I wrestled it a bunch of times, and I think it's a great event for our guys. But with the shortened calendar, we couldn't find a place to put that tournament that made sense. 1. 2 is, do you want to focus on domestic competition or do you want to focus on international competition? In my mind, we basically took one domestic tournament out and we added one international tournament. And it fit better. It also fit better, that international competition. So we decided to do that. The December tournament is called the Olympic, I don't even know what the name is.
Essentially, it's a trials qualifying tournament.
It's gonna take the top 3 guys from there in December that will go to the Olympic trials. We did need to have a tournament that was a qualifying process, but in my mind, do you want your national team focusing on getting qualified, or do you want your national team focusing on beating the best in the world? Do you want Jordan Burroughs, Jake Varner, Cale Sanderson, Reese Humphrey, Nick Simmons, Tion Ware? Do you want them focusing on qualifying for the trials? Let's be honest. They're good enough to be in the trials. We don't want them focused on being in the trials or getting qualified for the trials. We want them focused on beating the best in the world. So we basically gave them, the national team, a pass to say, we want you focused on beating the best in the world. but you're still going to have to make the team later. But we just don't want you focused on each other, because that's not what about winning the Olympic Games is. Now, when we get 4 world and Olympic champions in the same weight class, well, maybe we'll change the system. But till we get there, we need to focus on beating those guys in the world that we need to beat to win the Olympic Games. And so that's why we've done what we've done with our competition system this year.
How about being a part of the Cliff King Las Vegas Invitational there in early December?
Yeah, great. That's a great event. I love that tournament. We win every year. Mark Terrell and his group do a great job. I think it's a perfect marriage between getting folk style. Anytime we can bring folk style and freestyle into the same arena together, that's excellent. And what a great platform, because the Las Vegas tournament's one of the greatest tournaments for college. And obviously this qualifying tournament's a pretty big deal for guys that are trying to get qualified. So I like the marriage of the two.
In recapping the World Championships, what is maybe one thing that's fresh on your mind that the United States needs to improve on? To make that one a gold trophy instead of the bronze, yeah.
I would say
it's pretty big, too.
What do we need to improve on? I tell you, our men are doing such a good job following the training and competition plan. They know it works. So that piece is good. It really just boils down to focusing on technical areas we need to get better in, stay hungry, and dream every day about being the Olympic champion. And I think if we do those things, everything else will take care of itself.
All right, that'll wrap it up. Our first live Q&A with Zeke Jones, head freestyle coach. Check out the mat.tv for more videos throughout the year. Coach Jones, thank you very much. Any last words for the fans out there?
No, appreciate all your support. I just between talking to the staff here and all the emails and the texts and to, just the internet, you guys are great. Great to see you love our program. Really support our men. They need you. They watch what you say and what you do. So, get behind them. They love doing it for themselves, but they love doing it more for you and for our country and waving the flag. So I'd say that's it.